Learning to read. So right now I have this object, and if I go display and I go to frame selection, and I can just use the wheel mouse. If I can get back here and it reads, that's what reading is. You'll hear, hey, you should look to see it, if the reading value of it. It's making it small enough to take it all in at once, very small. And if the detail still transverses the read, then you know you have a good sculpt. Okay, so add a distance. I often find that the student is all up in its proverbial grill. Not to say that any more Caucasian-like, but and it's a weak sculpt, and it looks like a balloon animal every time. So go back, read it, zoom in, see how it looks. Now in this video I also want to look at surface detail. Here's a couple things I always do. So if I go to sculpt, page it down here. I like these little dents and stuff like that. There's little like things, and we're going to look at a texture for this too. But let's look at these dents. I wouldn't dent these at a really high level. I'll dent them at a low level, and that way I can blend them a little bit better. So holding control, I'll just put kind of a dent here, a dent here. Maybe I'll add lib and put some dents in here. I'll dent this in a little bit more. Okay. Now I did that here because, again, I can hold shift and kind of blend those. And when I go up, they look natural against the form instead of something like this. Watch it. This is what I see all the time. Ugh, you know, like, really? Does that kind of blend well? No. It looks awful. So less apparent is better. See? Just that little area right there helps. Now what about surface? Well, what about when surface comes into play? I go to layers and I'll go to sculpt. And this is where I go to an insane level, like 1, 2, 3. So there's a million. Now once you add a layer, unfortunately you can't back down and use those layers. You have to make a new layer for every layer. So we'll talk about fine detail here. I'll go to a sculpt layer and I'll think about what noise value this might have as an object. So I don't go making a bunch of crazy brushes. I try to use what I have sometimes. And the problem with these brushes is you can't really see that. And I'm just looking for a noise. I'll try this out. This is going to be super contrasty. Nope, not too bad. Looks pretty good. I don't like the fall off, so I'm going to go to the fall off curve. See how it's pushing into the geometry? That's what I don't want. and certain stencils or stamps do that. Okay, not happy with any of these, really. I can live with this one, I guess. Yeah, that works out good. So very, very faint surface noise. Now, I don't like the scraping that I'm getting, so I'll adjust the tiling. Right now it's tiling right about here, so I want to tile right about here. See how much better that is? So now I got a nice surface noise. And I'll add the surface noise to only areas that I think that are not receiving any wear and tear. And I'll do that first, maybe some on it, and then I'll use a flatten brush to flatten it out. Very light surface noise. Okay, now I'll go in and use the flatten tool. And what's nice about this is, if you look at it, it kills that detail. There's another way to do this, and it's called the erase. So you can erase back on a layer. And I'm just going to adjust this a little bit. And you can see how I could fade it right back. That's why I put it on a layer, is I can like that. Now, if I back it to 45, notice how much of a stark difference that is. So every once in a while I'll hit this on parts that are very sharp. And then again, having texture is very important. No balloon animal stuff. So even if you take the scrape brush at a very low level, that's much better than having nothing. If you're going to go for another method of sculpting, I would say, hey, you should probably make a new layer for that. And then you can blend the two together. See how it's kind of moving it around? So that's a little bit dense every once in a while. And I'm just rotating my brush a whole bunch of haphazardly times just to get the surface from like looking balloony. Now if I back down, like page down, notice these sculpt layers go away. and I'm not allowed to use them, and they'll yell at me every time. So now I have to, unfortunately, make new layers at lower levels in order for it to work. So I wouldn't use layers unless you really have to, and unless you're ready for it. Alright, so that's what I have as far as surface detail. I know it's really light right now, but yeah, this is unit 2, so I don't want you to get hung up on like pores and all that crap. So just keep making adjustments and going up and down in levels. Remember, go back, read it, and see if it will make sense. Enjoy.